Ready when you are, guys?
Eddie, you staying or going?
No, staying, mate. Always been committed to Australian rugby. I want to leave it in a better place, and that's still the job, mate.
Long term?
Well, I'm committed to make it a better place.
What does that mean? Committed to 2027?
Well, it's not absolutely my decision, is it? Yeah, we've got a review going forward, and we'll see what happens at the end of the review.
And you have been quoted recently in the past saying of the World Cup, it could be all over.
Well, again, that's not my decision, is it?
Are you worried you're going to get sacked? Is that what you're saying?
No, not worried. I don't control those sort of things. All I can do is coach. I went to the World Cup, came in a short period of time, had to make a decision on the team, made a decision we needed to go with youth, and whilst the results of the World Cup weren't the results we wanted, I think I've left the Australian team in a great position to go on to 2027. And, that judgment will be decided by the 2027 World Cup.
Eddie, you've denied that you've spoken to the Japanese Rugby Union. Have you spoken to any third parties about this position?
Third parties, what does that mean, mate?
Recruitment agencies, for example, executive search parties. Have you spoken to anybody like that?
Not that I'm aware of.
Eddie, there are a number of separate news organisations who have cited separate sources in a couple of occasions, a number of different sources to say that you were either speaking to the Japanese Rugby Union or representatives of the Japanese Rugby Union. Can you explain whether those reports were all inaccurate? Have you been talking to anybody?
Haven't been speaking to anyone, mate. I said that before.
No corporations or anybody like that?
That's correct.
Why do you think that those theories have come out of the blue?
I've got no idea, mate.
Have you spoken to the Japanese president? He's an old friend of yours.
Not for a long time.
There were reports that you guys had private discussions about this job.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Got no idea, mate.
I guess Eddie, the easy thing for you to say would be, I'm here from now up until the World Cup, no doubt about it.
Oh, well, that's the intention, mate. But as you know, we play in a game where the coach doesn't decide how long they stay.
Have you got support from Rugby Australia?
I believe so. But, we've got to do a review. And obviously the results were disappointing. Everyone's gutted by it, especially myself. But I stand by the decisions we've made, and I think we've left Australian rugby in a better position.
Eddie, do you have any break clauses in your contract that, for whatever reason, could see you leave early?
Well, that's not really for you to discuss, mate. Is it? That's a private discussion between Rugby Australia and myself, which I'd be breaking confidentiality if I said that. Is that all right?
Eddie, can you reflect on the World Cup and the performance of the team and your own performance? How do you rate it?
Yeah, look, as I said, I came into the Wallabies, short preparation time. I had to make a quick decision on what we do. I had a look at the resources we had, the players we had. I made a decision we've got to go with youth. That's the best option for Australia going forward. I made that decision, and the results of the World Cup weren't how we hoped, but I still think I've made the right decision there.
Can you respond then to criticisms now that going for a youth policy into a World Cup, looking ahead, wasn't the right call, that perhaps you should have included some of the veterans that you left out?
Well, everyone's got their own judgment, haven't they? And they're allowed to have that judgment. My choice was that I decided to go with youth, and I stand by that, because I think those players, we've got a lot of good young players there, a lot of good young players who are really going to benefit from that experience of the World Cup and go forward to the 2027 World Cup.
And obviously the team didn't perform to your expectations or the expectations of the Australian public. Why was that?
We just weren't good enough, mate. You just got to watch the quarterfinals of the weekend. We're not at that level, and we can't pretend to be at that level, but can we be at that level by 2027? Yes, we can.
It was described by some greats as men playing boys. Would you agree with that?
Oh, well, I wouldn't say that, but we're off the pace, definitely off the pace. But the opportunity to get better's there.
Eddie, do you still have passion to coach?
Massively, mate.
What's driving you?
I love the game, mate. I love the game. I love working with young players. I love seeing some of the young players maturing during the World Cup, and some of them struggle, and that's all part of it. But I love the game, and I love coaching young players.
Do you have a passion to coach the Wallabies?
100%.
And until And until you're told otherwise, you're happy to remain as coach of the
Yeah,
Wallabies?
yeah.
Eddie, 2015, you sat in a Stormers tracksuit, denied that you had any contact with English rugby officials. Why should we believe you now that you have nothing to do with the Japanese rule?
Oh, well, that's a different situation, mate.
Eddie, your last comment before you left was to tell the collective media to give themselves an uppercut. How do you reflect on those comments, right?
Probably need to give myself an uppercut, don't I? Well, again, mate, I didn't like the way that media conference was portrayed, and I'm allowed to say that. Probably wasn't the wisest thing to say, but sometimes you say things in the heat of the moment that you regret, mate.
So, Eddie, your contract is until 2027. Is it your intention now, given that Rugby Australia keeps you in the position that you want to coach out till 2027?
That's what I've said.
And is this squad, the squad that you've taken to the World Cup, does that form the nucleus of the Australian squad going forward and
Well,
perhaps to the next World Cup?
100%. You know, if you just look at the number of players we took to the World Cup, and the number of players that still got to reach their peak, you know, I just go through a Bell, Tupou, Frost, Valentini, Hooper, McWright, McDermott, Donaldson, Mark, Jorgensen. You know, there's a number of players there that are just at the start of their international careers. I think most of them showed during that World Cup that they've got enough to really go forward and be very good players for Australia. Then we throw in a few other players from around the place, and we've got the nucleus of a really good team. And that's the most positive thing. And sometimes, you know, when you have change, everyone hates change because it's uncomfortable. You know, everyone likes the status quo. And we had the courage, whether it be the right courage, to make the choice that we were going to go with the younger squad. And I think this young squad's going to stand Australia in good stead.
And obviously there's been a lot of talk and soul-searching about the state of Australian rugby, not just the Wallabies, from the grassroots up. What sort of changes would you like to see, and there is no review, what sort of changes do you want to see in Australian rugby overall to improve the strength of the game and ultimately the Wallabies?
Well, I think for the last 20 years in Australia we've spoken about getting more aligned. You know, we've had a federated system, and I think we need to get everyone more aligned. You just got to look at the World Cup in 2023. You know, two of the most impressive rugby countries at the moment, France and Ireland, they've both got united systems, both got aligned systems, and they both weren't good enough to make the semi-finals of the World Cup. You know, to make the semi-finals of the World Cup and to win the World Cup in 2027, we need the whole country to get aligned. That's from the grassroots all the way up. And I think over the period of time that I've been away, we've got more and more fractured. And this is now the opportunity to get more and more aligned. Now I'm not an administrator, mate, so I don't know how to do it. I'm just a basic coach. I go out there with a whistle, I blow the whistle, yell and scream, put an arm around the player every now and then. So I can't tell you how to do that, and I'm not going to try to tell you how to do that. That's for smarter people than me.
Understood, but what do you mean by alignment? What exactly?
Well, I think everyone working together, mate, from the grassroots, from little kids down at Randwick, to Super Rugby teams, to the Wallaby teams, we're all working together to put together the most powerful rugby national team we can put together.
There's a lot of disillusioned Australian rugby fans at the moment. Do you have a comment for them, you know, bring them back into the fold?
Yeah, look, you know, we feel they're hurt. We feel all the supporters hurt, and we really appreciate the great support we had in France and back in Australia for the team, and we feel they're hurt. But as I said, sometimes the change you have to have is uncomfortable, and it is quite difficult. And sometimes you have to go through this to get into a better state. And I believe the problems we've had, particularly at the national team, and will put us in a better state going forward.
And you just alluded to it then, but are you essentially just saying centralisation?
No, I didn't say that. Don't put words in my mouth. I said we've got to be aligned. Aligned's different than centralisation. Centralisation is one person at the top telling everyone what to do. Aligned means that you have a number of discussions, you work out what's the best route forward, and then you take the nation forward.
Eddie, will you be participating in an interview with Japan next month?
No.
Not at all?
No.
Category or anything
Yeah.
like that? Yeah. And you mentioned with the review process that is kind of what you're waiting to see if you have a future. If Rugby Australia say, yeah, Eddie, we want you to stay, are you guaranteeing that you will stay?
Yeah.
Eddie, will you help potentially Japanese Rugby Union to find the next candidate if it's not you, given your close links?
No.
Eddie, is this a bigger job than you thought it was going to be?
I always knew it was big, mate. Yeah, it was like walking into a difficult situation. Always knew this was going to be hard.
Do you regret coming back?
No, not at all. The only thing I regret is probably telling the press to give themselves an uppercut.
You
But
wish you said more of them, did you?
yeah, no, probably do. But you know, we needed to make decisions on what needed going forward, and I think there's a couple of things that's come out. One is that youth will take us forward, and two, we need to get better alignment in Australia.
You mentioned that the game was fractured during your departure from it. Is it dying in Australia?
I don't think it's dying, mate. Yeah, but I think we're in a difficult situation. If I look at when I left to now, like the difference between the NRL and the AFL to where I was is massive, you know, and that's definitely affected our talent pool, definitely. So we've got to work harder at those areas, and that's what I mean. We've got to get aligned, because we've not only got to fix things at the top level, we've got to fix things at the talent identification, recruitment, development level. We've got to get more players into the game, better players in the game. At the moment, NRL is stealing them all.
Are you feeding that into Rugby Australia? Or are they asking you for
We're
your thoughts?
constantly having those discussions, mate.
Eddie, when you were appointed in January, it was also to oversee the Wallaroos. Will you be turning your attention to them now?
Yeah, I'd like to spend more time with them, mate.
So you'll be heading to New Zealand for their test?
Not at this stage. I think I've got enough here to worry about, mate.
Eddie, what makes you the right man to take Australian rugby forward specifically?
Well, I think I've got the foresight to see where we need to go. I've got the experience of being in difficult situations before. This is not an unusual situation. You know, you've got a team that was struggling for a period of time. You got underneath it a system that's not supporting it, and at some stage you bottom out. And this is the opportunity now to change the team, as we've started with picking younger players with bright futures, and then we've got to look at the development system underneath as well. Like this is not a simple equation that the Wallabies are bad. Like, let's be serious about this. The Wallabies are not at where they need to be. But underneath that, we need to fix the system to go forward. And if we can do that now, we've got a rosy future. You know, because as it was said before, we've got great support here, and we need to generate more support by better performances.
It's not been an easy couple of weeks for you, Eddie.
Yep.
How have you been coping, just yourself?
Fantastic, mate.
Great.
Fantastic. Well, I was really interested in all the Irish fans out on, when was it? Saturday morning. And what, you know, you look at what Ireland have done. They are probably the model country for rugby, aren't they? You know, small rugby country, but they've used all the resources to put together a great national team. And even in the heat of the moment, they still couldn't win that quarter-final. You know, so what have we got to do to win the World Cup in 2027? We've got to get together, we've got to work together. As Mark said, pull our finger out. Might be just me, might be a few other people need to do that as well, to get to where we want to be. Otherwise, you know, we're going to have the same disappointment.
Eddie, are you and Hamish McLennan in the full war? Are you guys all on the same page about what needs to be done to fix rugby in this country?
Well, I'd like to think so, yeah.
Are you saying, Eddie, that you like this conflict and you like this battle at the moment?
Oh, well, I didn't come back to Australia to have a holiday. You know, sit down at Coogee Beach, eat fish and chips, have a nice flat white. It was always going to be a battle, mate. You know, when you've got a team that hasn't done well for a long period of time, it's always a battle. It's always a battle.
Is rugby now at the bottom of the pile in terms of football codes in this country?
Well, I think we're struggling, mate. But there's the opportunity for us. That's the opportunity for us.
You've spoken a lot about your commitment to Australian rugby. You're not curious at all where this Japanese stuff is coming from?
No.
You're not put a moment's thought into it? Does it come out of thin air?
I don't know, mate. You have to tell me.
Eddie, do you understand that Wallabies fans are struggling to have faith in you and what you're saying?
Well, I don't know, mate. I can't give you an answer for that, mate. All I can do is stand here and tell you what I'm saying.
What are the next steps for you? What's the immediate future?
The review. The review. Yeah.
And,
So that's about to start, I believe. Yeah.
and in terms of your coaching work and so on, what are your next steps?
I'll be the review. Yeah. And then we've got Super Rugby starting. But we don't get the players again until June next year.
You said that you take responsibility, obviously, for the results. You say that you're the man for the job. What is it exactly that would there ever be an instance where you would consider quitting in terms of if the results don't go well next year?
Well, you know, we get judged by our results, mate. I chose to be a coach, right? We know we get judged by our results, right? That's not a judgment I need to make. All I can do is coach as well as I can. That's all I try to do, coach as well as I can. And there's other people that make those judgments, not me.
You talk about Super Rugby, Eddie. What's your position on how many teams Australia should have? Great, man, he thinks only 3 or 4.
Look, that's not my decision, mate. Again, I'm not an administrator.
Eddie, have you got any prediction for how the semi-finals are going to play out, and who do you think's the favourite and why?
I love the Kiwis, mate. You're in black, aren't you?
Yeah, sorry,
Yeah.
I'm back in the shadows. What do you like about the Kiwis?
I think the rugby they're playing, you know, there's two sorts of games at the moment at the World Cup, and a lot of it depends on the referee. Yeah, you saw Wayne Barnes referee the contest and continuity really well, which allowed quick ball, which allowed the Kiwis to play some fantastic attacking rugby, as did Ireland. And then you've got the other referees who are a bit more murky on that area, and you've got a lot more contests and they're much more attritional sort of games. And I think if a referee such as Wayne Barnes has got the semi-final and final for the Kiwis, they're a great chance, mate.
Peter, given the rise of Fiji and Japan at the World Cup, would you like to see them expand in an expanded rugby championship in future?
Again, that's not my role, mate.
Eddie, just to clarify, your role with the review, obviously you're reviewing your performance and performance of the team, but the broader review, do you have any say in that? What will you exactly be doing?
No.
So when you talk about the review, what are you going to be doing?
Well, we've done a review. You know, our staff sat around for 2 days with the players and done a review. So we've got things coming out of that. But there's a formal review to be done by independent consultants, which look at how is the team prepared, did we maximise the resources we've got, did we miss things? Yeah, that'll all be done, which is a normal review to be done, mate.
So you're feeding into that?
I would imagine so, yeah.
And from a coaching perspective, does that mean that's your main goal at the moment? Are you going to take some time to put your feet up? Or?
We'll have a rest at some stage, yeah.
Eddie, your Maul coach Pierre told the Keith the other day that you might not stay if there's not the right support structures around you, and I presume it's sort of kind of the alignment thing. Is that the case? Would you consider walking away if the alignment piece doesn't get up off the ground?
Well, I said my commitment's to put Australia in a better place, and you've got to have things operating, put it in a better place, and part of it is making sure we do get better alignment, but I've got to help drive that with the CEO and the chairman.
Is part of that getting access to the players before June next year?
Well, it's not so much getting access, it's can we get aligned in terms of their preparation. We need our players to be better prepared, because we're not at the level we need to be at. Well, let's be clear about that. We're not at the level we need to be at. And so to get to the level we need to be at, we need change. We need things to be operating at a higher level.
Is that fitness, conditioning, skills?
Everything, mate. Everything. You just got to look at the quarterfinals and look where we're at. We're not at that level, and we need to get to that level. And that can be done through hard work. It can be done through smart planning. It can be done through consistently thinking about world-class standards. And that's what we need to get to in Australian rugby.
So how do you get that alignment that you're talking about when you've got separate teams competing, competition competitively? How do you get the Brumbies doing what?
Well, that's a $64 question, mate, and that's been rumbling around for a long period of time. But now maybe it's a catalyst for it to happen, and how it happens, I don't know, mate.
Yeah, you mentioned off the field, a bit of a regret about uppercuts to the media. On the field, what regrets do you have, if any, from the World Cup?
No, I don't have any, mate. I don't have any.
Do you stand by leaving Michael Hooper?
Yep.
That was the right call?
Yep.
Quite good.
Yep. Yeah, tough calls, but I just decided we needed to move forward and we needed to give a young group of players a chance to express themselves. And obviously it was difficult for them. We weren't up at the level we need to be at, but I don't regret it at all. And they're choices you make. And sometimes you have to make hard choices that sometimes reverberate on yourself personally, but are good for the organisation.
You said that you've evolved. You said that you've evolved as a coach. The players nowadays might need an arm around the shoulder. Do you feel you have evolved as a coach, and you're going to continue to?
Yeah, I just look at our team at the World Cup as we had a very disappointing World Cup, but the spirit the boys played with in the Portugal test indicates how much they worked hard. And I think we had a good environment in the camp. I think we had a really good environment in the camp. results were disappointing, but we kept fighting, we kept showing up, and that's an important thing. And sometimes those bits and pieces where you're sharp when it's really tough really help you further down the track.
And you almost beat the All Blacks in New Zealand in the match before you went away. When was the shift in your thinking to go from some of those older guys, Craig was very much the senior man in the huddle up that match, to the youth policy?
Well, we weren't good enough, mate, to beat the All Blacks. You know, we had them on toast 17-3. We couldn't finish the game off. Well, let's be quite factual about that. So we need. Well, I just thought we're not going to get anywhere with that group of players. I probably thought they'd maximise themselves out, and we had that group of players for a period of time. And I always go back to the definition of insanity, mate. You know, keep doing the same thing, expect different results. So I tried something different. Went for youth, and it will have its favourable results further down the track.
What about the players who were there that you've told now that they weren't good enough? They're maybe on multi-year contracts, maybe.
Who's that, mate?
Well, the players that you left behind from that.
What do you mean?
Team. You just referenced leaving behind players who weren't good enough. Most of them are still in the Australian rugby system. How will they be reacting to that?
Well, I hope they work harder, mate.
Well, good. Looking to sign any talent from rival codes? Looks like I think Angus Crichton's name been floated around. Joseph Swaley.
No, just Nathan Cleary. That's the only one I want. So I'm driving out to Penrith after this.
Any no regression about signing Joseph Swaley?
Oh, well, I didn't sign him, mate. That's a decision made. But I think he'll be good for the code, mate.
Looking forward to coaching him.
He'll be a great player, yeah.
Eddie, how can Australian rugby improve the connection between grassroots, club, you came up, we're here in Randwick, how can Australian rugby improve that connection between grassroots and the elite?
Well, I think it's always by action, mate. You know, and again, there's been a lot of criticism of the Wallabies, all justified, but we went out of our way to try to get back to community rugby. You know, we did sessions at Manly with the young kids. We've done sessions down here, and we'll continue to do that. And that's all we can do is to continue to drive that by action. And I don't know any other way you do it, mate.
Eddie, what does it say to you that possibly, arguably, the largest press conference you've had since you come back to Australian rugby is this one? What does it say to you?
That people loves to see controversy over a coach. But that's the thing that sells. You either have a player getting drunk, misbehaving, or a coach getting sacked. Like that creates headlines. People love this sort of drama.